This prompt is tell the story of the first time you earned your own money. I don't know if I can make that a long enough story, but I think I want to talk about all the times I earned money up until doing my current job. And the first way I ever remember earning money was through gambling as a little kid. So when I was like 4 years old, my dad taught me how to play poker. And he would give me money. He would gift me like $2. Like we'd start a game with $2 each. He would give me $2. We'd play poker. And we'd just kind of, go until we were done. And I would usually have some earnings by the end. I would usually walk away with more money than I started with. I don't know if my dad was throwing games or anything like that. But I would end up with, like, let's say we start with $2, I end with $3, like something like that. And the funny thing is that I had this money from gambling, and then my dad would take my money because we were broke and he needed cigarettes. So he would steal my money and go buy cigarettes with it, and he would always tell me, I'll pay you back double. Or, like, I'll pay you back that plus 50%. My dad quickly racked up a debt with me. My dad eventually owed me like $55 because he kept promising to pay me back double what he had taken. And it was 55 of his own money, but I was very, like, in my mind, it was my money. He had given it to me, we'd gambled, he'd taken loans, he owes me a bunch of money, which was eventually all spent on toys. But, like, for a very long time, that was the most money I had ever, quote-unquote, earned for myself. Growing up, we had an allowance for a little while. There wasn't a lot. Like, most of the time when I was a kid, we just got stuff for, like, my birthday or Christmas, or if my dad was feeling generous. Like, for years, all we really got outside of holidays was Pokemon cards, because, like, every time we'd go out, we'd demand Pokemon cards, and that's a lot. So we didn't get a lot of toys and other shit, like, in that era. We'd also rent lots of stuff, so we didn't, like, own a lot of shit. And I remember we would get money for report cards. That was the other big way we earned money, was that my parents had a system where we would get $5 for every B and $10 for every A. But if we got straight A's, we would make $100, which I never accomplished in the time after this rule was instituted. Because it was like, I want to say 6th grade, when I was going to 6th grade anyways, that they instituted this. I think Victor pulled it off once. I think Victor got straight A's and got $100 on a report card. But yeah, this was a rule all throughout middle school and high school, though by the time I was in high school, my grades were so shitty that it didn't matter anymore. And also $5 or $10 was not as much to me as it was when I was a kid. And that was the main way that we would earn money. So I'd usually get like $25, $30, if that, after a report card. Yeah, so that was one way. I also made money by selling video games sometimes. Like, me and Victor, we would occasionally, like, en masse sell our games that we didn't care about to buy one other game. Like, we would go and sell, like, 10 games to GameStop and buy one that was on sale, We also were big into change scounging, where we would, like, just explore the house and pick up all the change we could find for a few days, which was always a shitload, because there would always be quarters laying around the house all over the place. My dad always had change falling out of his pockets and shit. So we would collect all the change we found, and then put it into a Coinstar, use that money to buy a game, So yeah, we did a lot of that kind of shit. And I would, I've continued to do the, like, sell a part of my collection and buy something. Like, even today, I'll do that if I need to cleanse a portion of the shit I own. But so those were some methods. And then I can't think of any other methods by which, well, I had an allowance briefly for doing chores. which was very simple. Like, all we had to do was make sure that the living room was generally clean when my dad got home, and to do the dishes and make dinner. Like, that was the main things. And we fought constantly about who was going to do each of those things. And about half the time, we didn't really get them done, or we half-assed everything. But nonetheless, my dad gave us $25 a weekend for a little while. This is when we were doing pretty well. And I would use that to buy video games or anime or CDs or manga or whatever until we moved into the ghetto and I didn't have any money anymore. There was no more allowance, for there was no more money. And then the allowance came back once my dad had money again. So I definitely had an allowance for a while. I would say like most of my high school years. So that's kind of earning money. But the first like job that I worked was for my mom at Spencer Gifts. My mom was a manager at Spencer's for a couple years. And they had a Black Friday where they just needed like extra hands. And I think I was probably like 17 at the time. And my mom was like, hey, you want to come work Black Friday with me all day? It was like a 12-hour shift. I made like $75 or something like that. No, it had to be more than that, right? I don't remember. It was a long-ass shift. I made at least $70. But as a just random hire for the day. And that was it. That was the only day I worked. But it was pretty interesting because I'd never worked before, but I was really good because I am a generally great employee because I just fucking do what I'm told. Like, in my mind, the idea of not doing what you're told at work is unfathomable. Like, I literally don't get it. Like, it's all you have to do. The only thing you have to do at most jobs is what you are told to do. If someone says, go put these coats on that rack, you go put the coats on the rack. If they're like, okay, stand there and greet customers and try to sell them hats, you stand there and greet customers and give them the fucking the spiel that you have fucking written down. You know, like, you just do the thing. Just do the fucking job. It's not hard to do a job. Every job is easy, in my opinion. You know, like, you just do the job. It might suck. It might be boring. It might be shit. You might be tired sometimes and can't do it. That happened to me a couple times at Target. I was too fucking tired to actually work the job. But it was not a hard job. I understood how it was done perfectly fine. And they loved me working there for that reason. But yeah, so I worked briefly at Spencer's. And then there was also a time, I want to say this was before Target, where my mom, like, post-cancer and quitting school, I think, she had gotten this weird, like, part-time job, or it was like a commission job, where basically these people would call her, and she would do, like, retail stocking for random stores that needed it. Like, if there was a store that just for the day, like, needed an extra employee, they would use this, like, this agency or whatever of, like, random free agents. And, like, you know, they'd call the agency, and the agency would call my mom and give her a job. She'd usually have to drive, like, an absurd distance, but they'd comp her for the time spent driving. And one day, they needed 2 people, and my mom was like, hey, you want to do this random job with me? And I was like, sure. It must have been post-Target, because I knew, because it was the same job. It's the same job that I had been doing at Target, you know. So, so we went in and we did that. And it was just, like, ludicrously easy. Like, we weren't there for as long as we were supposed to be, because the store had called us in to do this, but, like, the place was basically dead. Like, there was nobody, like, shopping there. and there was nobody working in this section like that supposedly needed to be done so urgently. It was just basically picking up like random crap and putting on the show. Like, I don't know. I could kind of understand why they thought it would be more work than it was, but it wasn't. You know, it was just like really easy. And we finished in like, I want to say we worked for, like, we drove 45 minutes there, worked for maybe 2 hours, took a lunch, came back, worked for maybe another 2 hours, and left. And, you know, got paid like $50 for that. It was pretty fucking sick, but that was the only time that I did that job. And I want to say that's all the money I earned outside of Target and YouTube. Target being like a proper job, and YouTube being like a, you know, weird person job. And that's it for this. I made it to the end. It's like fucking 4:30 in the morning, and I decided to do the second hour of the previous episode and both hours of this one right in a row because I'm just so fucking excited about this idea. I'm so excited about the mere concept of doing this project. And I think I might have actually gotten 12 subjects out of this one. I definitely covered a broader swath of topics, and maybe I'll have finished fucking January already. That would be particularly exciting. But you guys will know that. I will not until I edit this. See you in the next one.